for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Colley and Mr. Ward, I heard what you were saying to Chairman McHenry about the businesses and entrepreneurs you were able to help. But I didn't hear how you were connecting rural and underserved small businesses and entrepreneurs. How are you connecting those businesses with investors? And if you can comment on the evidence that shows that diverse investors drive diverse investment.
Thank you for the question. Yes, we do have data, and we can take this back and share it with your staff. I will say that when you foster the creation of more emerging managers, especially not just centered around the Bay Area, but
Can you bring your, yes,
yep.
Thank you.
When you foster the creation of more venture funds, emerging managers, not just in the Bay Area, but across the US, they end up investing in communities close to them. And so that's really what we're focused on, which is how can we help create even more emerging managers, venture funds that can then invest alongside their communities itself. And the second way in which it connects is as you invest in companies that become these large tech companies, some of them serve small businesses in terms of banking needs, loans. Some of them serve small individuals in terms of Uber and Lyft and giving them more flexible ways to earn capital. So there are many different ways in which a small amount of private capital actually transforms the U.S. economy and transforms small businesses across the U.S.
I might add one.
But can you discuss, the fact that many members on this committee, Ranking Member Waters, Beatty, myself, Gregory Mix, we all care about the fact that in order to diversify the investment that is made toward rural and people that otherwise will not have an opportunity to access capital. Access to capital is access to opportunity. Mm-hmm. What can you do or suggest that should be done?
Yeah, in terms of giving more access to capital to rural areas, this is where I would look to incentivize more financial institutions, more fintech companies to get formed that aren't just banks, because then they can actually have innovative products to provide unique access to capital across communities in the U.S.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ward.
Yes, Congresswoman Valdez, I think one of the things to understand is that the entrepreneurs will follow the capital, will go where the investors are, and the employees will go where the entrepreneurs are. And the more that we can reduce the costs of setting up funds, setting up investor communities, setting up angel communities, and we've seen this work in various regions. For example, Nashville, Austin, Texas, Boston's becoming a life science hub. There's these regional centers that are starting to form, and we can expand that to more and more regions as we attract more and more of that capital.
Thank you. Ms. Dixon, when it comes to utilization of blockchain technology in the financial services sector, the technology is primarily utilized to facilitate payments. But the technology is continuing to evolve. How can blockchain technology be applied to provide access to capital for underserved businesses or those located in rural communities?
Yeah, I can think of 3 ways, and thank you so much for the question. First, we have already tokenized assets, for example, in money market funds that are now issued by Franklin Templeton and others that allow people to come in at a much lower level. So before it was like $500, but because of the costs that they're seeing, they can come in and purchase those funds for like $20. So that's a nice way to be able to get access to some funds that way. But to get access to capital, and the second thing I'd say is that there's a way to be able to create like a smart contract that is very simple that allows them to be able to get access to capital from all over the world. So we're actually using this in different parts of the world and in the United States to be able to say that they can create an idea, they can post the idea, and then they can have people even put in $1 or $2 or $3 globally. This actually helps those people who can't be funded by the traditional funding sources. And then the third way, just the fact that they can actually leverage this new kind of infrastructure that connects with traditional financial infrastructure, but doesn't require the same kind of level of fees and level of access, brings them more into the market. So I love that this is what we fight for to do, is to bring this kind of capital and access to those who traditionally have been underserved.
Thank you. Ms. Dixon, one of the central tenets of our banking system is the separation of banking and commercial activity. Fairview's versions of stablecoin legislation I have seen fail to recognize this separation for stablecoin issuers. This would allow non-financial commercial businesses to own a stablecoin issuer. Do you believe it's important to maintain a separation between financial and commercial activity when it comes to issuance of stablecoin and other digital assets?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. I think that we can actually preserve that, and I think we've done it, and I think this committee has done a nice job trying to preserve that with respect to the existing, the piece of legislation that was put together in a bipartisan fashion. You have the commercial activity from the payments and from traditional activity that most of these stablecoin providers aren't actually involved in at all. Those assets are being leveraged for payments, but they're not actually, they themselves are not participating in that piece. And then from the banking side, these stablecoin issuers that are not banks are not able to hold fractionalized reserves. They're one-to-one backed. That was an important piece of the legislation that we deeply support, because we think that that actually protects the traditional banking infrastructure and also protects the consumers to have that one-to-one banking.
Thank you. Thank you. I yield back.
The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Sessions, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I like my